There we go.
Okay.
So,
All right, stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have kind of a busy agenda tonight, so it takes to get through it. First on the agenda is a public hearing. This is to continue the public hearing from regarding EMS and the 2022 contract. I looked in the budget. Originally I thought there was $30,000 for FY22 that was approved in the last administration for EMS. It's actually $40,000. So we'll open the hearing. So I, for one, support EMS and the efforts that and how they support our community. The challenge here is going to be determining what kind of level of funding is appropriate and whether this or some portion can become part of the annual budget. If this is the desire of the board, we do need to be careful because we're pretty close to the tax cap. That said, EMS is in a transition period right now, which everyone understands. And, going through a period where you're moving from volunteer staff to paid staff. There's increasing medical, pharmaceutical costs, training certification challenges, and things like that. So I'm pleased to see that they've come up with a pretty robust budget. Tom's been helping them do that. That'll help them better plan for their expenses and their revenues in the future, especially once they get through this transition period. And Tom, if you want to, before we take public comment, if you want to kind of tell us where we are.
Renee, mostly I kind of gave her a format, but she did the heavy lifting to get her revised budget. I don't think it's gone to their board yet for approval, but I think it's a kind of a revised budget. It's a little more detailed than the original budget they gave us back in 2021. So I think it's a good format going forward. It will help them track actuals to their forecast as they go forward. It does show that they are running a deficit at the end of this year, but it does appear, at least initially, that the $40,000 that we have in our budget, if that is approved to be spent, will carry them through the year and leave them still with a balance. I think Renee is going to get with Pat Ida to confirm the cash flow formulas. It's in the deal to confirm that, but it does appear as that with a $40,000 influx, they can carry through and end the year still with a fund balance of just a little over 100,000. So I think that will leave them, but obviously they need to stay with some reserve. They can't run their fund balance to zero, right? But I think that 40 grand. But with that being said, I think that the town board needs to be open later in the year, around our budget time next year to see, and/or if we need to pull some additional capital out to support them through the end of the year. But 40,000 will certainly get them over the initial hump that they're kind of in right now.
Okay. After our meeting with EMS, I was looking at options that we were going to have. Whether we just execute the $40,000 and go down through some point in the year and see where they lay, and if they need more additional money. Any additional money for this year, it would have to come out of fund balance.
Right.
The other thing was, at one point there was a $70,000 ask. I don't know if that's still accurate or not.
And looking at it today, it doesn't appear as though that's necessary. Renee, jump in here and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it looked like on the budget that we ran, kind of went through with her that she's finalized today, the 40K will, it appears to carry them well through this year, unless, of course, unforeseen expenses come up, then, something like that, or if their budget revenues forecasted don't materialize like they have thought, well, there may be a need later in the year. But right now, you know, things being equal, it appears that 40,000 would get them through the year.
I would just like to say that, you know, we did ask for 70. January and February have been pretty tough for us, just starting out with, you know, all of our payments that need to go out. We were looking to ask for 70 with the possibility to come back maybe in September if we needed more assistance, but, you know, obviously, we're trying all our options out that we possibly can.
Okay, I mean, if 70 is an ask, I mean, I'm willing to pull a little more out of fund balance if that's what we want to do.
I think that's entirely up to the board. Just for reference, there appears to be, or as of December 31st, I'll say, there was a fund balance of about 165,000
Okay.
in there, and so, you know, an additional 40 would put their fund balance, I say as of December 31st, obviously there's been some expenses in January, I don't know what the January cash balance was, but, you know, I'd put them up to 200K fund balance, which should certainly carry them well into later next year, but then again, if you give them 70,000, then there probably isn't any, I wouldn't foresee a need for them to come back later in the year.
Okay.
So that's where we stand, so I'm really kind of up to the board.
Any thoughts, Joyce?
No, I'm just listening to the conversation.
How about you, sir?
If they need to 70, I think it is.
So, like I said, there's options. We could go for 40 and look later in the year to see what additional funds they need. We have to come out of fund balance, or we can give them 70 now. Either way, when we get towards the end of the fiscal year, we should have a better idea of kind of what their budget is. It's kind of hard to nail it down because there's so many fluctuations in their line of business in terms of what they get back from insurance and things like that. So we're never going to really know what the exact number is, but we're going to need some sort of number if we choose to add them as a line item, a little more money every year on an annual basis. And like I said, we got to watch out for that tax cap. One of the things we need to do during budget time is scrub that budget to, because there's things that are going to be added. We need to pull some things out. So I guess we're going to have a motion to spend the money, whether it's going to be 40 or 70. I think you're leaning towards 40.
My thoughts are is that, you know, 40 will certainly carry them through the year, it appears. Obviously, if there's additional expenses or if their revenue doesn't materialize like they forecasted, well, then maybe not. But on the other hand, 70 would certainly be, you know, appears to be more than adequate for them to get through the year, so.
Yeah.
Renee, even if you didn't have a cash flow, like if you didn't get your insurance monies back, say you didn't have a lot of transports and stuff, would that money still take you through?
The 70,000?
No, 40.
The 40?
I'm saying
No.
if you know, if your insurance companies, and we know that's the factor, that's the big thing. And if you didn't get any of your insurance money back, that 40 wouldn't amount to much.
Well, I'll make a motion to fund Time EMS at a total of $70,000, 40 of which is already budgeted, and 30 of which to come from fund balance. And again, we really need to see what those numbers end up being towards the third quarter of the year before we get into budget time. Time EMS is an important service. We need to get through this period of fluctuation here so we really can get a better handle on what that annual number would be if the town is going to become a regular supporter at a significant level of funding.
I don't know if this is the time, but when we had the public safety meeting, I brought this up, and everybody in the room definitely was in favor of giving you guys some.
I don't think anyone's not in
Yeah.
favor of Time EMS.
So you have a resolution on the floor, it's first, if you need to second it, and then you can have discussion.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Do you guys have any other comments you'd like to make? Any of the public have any comments you'd like to make about this? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Stephanie Mitchell. I just wanted to share with you, we've asked EMS, EMS is important to our town. We've asked them for a budget.
Why don't you come up and speak into the,
Well, can you hear me now, Tanya?
I probably will not be able to hear you on that, no.
Okay. I just simply want to say, we've asked EMS for a couple of years for budget, and they provided it now. And they say what they need this year, and so I'd like to ask I'd like to ask the board, what is the advantage of holding 40 and having that struggle on them if they say they need 70, and then they get backed up, and then we have to do it later? If there is an advantage to that, then great, but if they provided a budget that they need, and we have to stay within the budget, as a citizen, I'm concerned about what will happen at the end of the year if they exceed. So I want to be sure that they have every opportunity. It sounds like, Tom, that they do with the backup budget that they have, but I want to have a clear understanding that we're giving them every opportunity to succeed. And they've said what they need, so are they going to be able to succeed? Because that's
we just voted to approve $70,000.
well, I thought that there would be a public hearing, so I just wanted
This
to
is it.
reinforce you that I think that that's really important.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else?
I would assume there'll be some figures by August because we'll be
Yeah.
going to the budget in September, so you'll have to keep us up to date.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We'll actually start planning for that in late summer.
Yeah, with the spreadsheet that's been developed, if it's updated with actuals, it will give an actual monthly variance report to what they budgeted. So come August, if it's inputted properly, data is input as time goes by August, they'll know if they're on target to meet their budget in expenses and revenue, and of course, that'll give them an idea going forward where they stand. So,
You know, they haven't had any draft calls, I want to make sure they got fuel.
Yeah.
That they got fuel in their ambulances when they come to get you.
That'd be good. Renee, Patty, you got anything else? Does this work for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Just
great.
like to say thank you for supporting us.
Anytime you need to talk, just give me a call.
Absolutely.
I don't know the gentleman that's sitting there.
Josh.
Josh,
He's our new president.
oh, welcome.
All right, great. Well, then, if there's no other comments, I'll close this public hearing. Okay.
You say, John.
She did.
I did. I'm older.
Okay, so we have a few presentations tonight, one of which is Chilson Fire, Jim Davis. Wendy, you're here. Want to go ahead and plead your case?
Can you come over just a little bit, Jim, maybe right in front of the pillar? Yeah, I'm thinking I should talk, because nobody can hear me. Okay, go ahead, Wendy. You should have seen this Monday night at a meeting, everybody went right to it because they couldn't hear him. I'm Wendy Davis, I'm the treasurer for the Chilton Volunteer Fire Department. We approached you in December about a change in our incorporation papers. Unfortunately, all that went through, it got filed with the state, and Monday night about 4:30, I got an email from an attorney. There was a two-part to it. Not only did we need to update the dissolution part, we also needed to update the purpose part of the incorporation, and we got half of it done. So now we've come to you to do the other part. And we greatly apologize. There was a misunderstanding between our CPA and our attorney. And I believe you have a copy of it in front of
We
you.
do. And it looks like this has to be notarized.
Yes. Yeah, I'll take care of that with Jim on
Okay.
tomorrow morning,
All right.
tomorrow afternoon. But I'll need all of your signatures, that's why it needs a resolution that you want to approve of. Is there any questions that you might have?
I would just like to be clear on what the change is for. I understand the change, I just don't understand why it's being done at this point, so.
Okay,
Recalculation.
our incorporation was done in 1961.
Yep.
60 plus years ago. We're in the process of working with a CPA and updating everything for the IRS to receive a 501c3 status. And in the process, the IRS requires this language.
Okay. All right, understood.
Simply put.
No, it's fine, yeah. No, I get it.
Okay, well, I guess this motion would be to accept the change to the Chilson Fire Amendment. Is this your charter? Is that what this is?
It's the actual incorporation.
The actual?
Yes.
So you're resolving to amend the certificate of incorporation
Yeah.
for Chilton Volunteer Fire Company.
As presented to the board here. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any other further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried?
Thank you.
Did you
If
have?
you all want to take 2 of those and sign them and then pass them down here, that would be great.
2 of them?
Well, you can give yours to Tom. You can sign 2 of them, and then they can come down this way, please, while you're carrying on.
There was got it.
And I don't have to count them.
Thank you very much.
Did you have anything else today?
That was it.
All right, so the next one is, we have a presentation by a Downtown Revitalization Initiative. This is, I think probably most people are familiar with this, and I'll let the group explain that. But this is a recent grant that some of our neighbors got for $10 million for revitalization and economic recovery. I'm a member of this initiative group, this task force, and representative of the board. So with that, I will let either Alicia and Donna have the floor.
Careful, Don. We'll be trapped around here.
Got it.
It's like a MacGyver situation.
Got it.
I almost had to catch it.
Thanks for that introduction, Mark, and thank you all for having us here tonight and providing a spot on the agenda for us. My name is Alicia Bartlett. I'm the Executive Director with Ticonderoga, and I'm here with Donna Watton, Executive Director of Thai Alliance, and we're representing a fairly newly formed group, which is what we call the Town of Ticonderoga, DRI, application committee. Though we're a newly formed group, the effort has been long going. And so the committee that has formed early, solidified our formation in early January. We've had 3 meetings so far, and as Mark has pointed out, 2 of our members are town board members, Mark and Joyce Cooper. Then we have Pride of Ticonderoga representation, Thai Area Chamber of Commerce, Thai Alliance, Ticonderoga Montcalm Street Partnership, which John Bartlett is here representing tonight.
Stuart's on the phone.
We also have Stuart Baker, who is Pride of Thai board president and a senior planner representing the planning community at large. We also have Essex County IDA that is working with us. Fort Ticonderoga is in support and has been on calls. And then we've got Thai Young Professionals Organization, a member representing that. And then a couple members at large representing the 20-something group and high school students to help us when we get our efforts underway to reach out to those communities. So we're trying to be as diverse as possible and provide as much representation as we possibly can throughout the community. What some of you might not know is DRI stands for Downtown Revitalization Initiative. It's New York State Economic Development cornerstone program, and the goal of the DRI is to transform downtown neighborhoods into vibrant centers. While the focus is on downtowns, we expect, and this happens in all communities that receive these awards, there's ripple effects that go throughout the town. So even if it's downtown focused, the effects are far-reaching and town-wide. This spring, we expect the 6th round of the DRI process to be announced. Again, that would be up to $10 million in grant funding for one municipality that wins it within the North Country Regional Economic Development Council region, which we're part of. The first application that had been submitted from Ticonderoga, as I mentioned, past efforts, was in 2019. So we're not necessarily starting this process from scratch, but hopefully building on previous attempts and bolstering those. And I'm just giving you an overview of why we're here and what this effort's for. In the previous 5 rounds, over the last 7 years, larger towns and essentially cities have won these awards. As time has gone by, smaller and smaller towns have been able to compete against the larger municipalities. So while we didn't win in our previous attempt, we do feel that at this point in time, Ticonderoga could definitely compete against the remaining competitors within our region. And we also feel like that by tightening up our organization and getting hyper-focused, we will increase our chances of competitiveness. The DRI, I've outlined, well, Donna and I have outlined on this overview sheet the 10-step process that we believe it will take to get through the DRI, and what it consists of. So the first is the funding availability announcement that we expect to come out in the middle of March, and then applications will be due by the end of May. It's about a 3-month window, but there's a lot of work that has to happen within that window for an application to be considered and awarded. Then number 7 is when we expect award announcements to occur. That would be the 4th quarter of this year. So that's about 6 months between application submission and award date. And then once an applicant is awarded, then that committee and the application takes on a whole new transformation. And a more robust committee will be formed, which would consist of local, state, and regional representatives to form an overall planning committee and even larger effort to be able to prioritize and narrow in on how the $10 million will be spent. So it's as targeted an approach as possible. And then we have alerted, I didn't mention, I don't think, Roost is one of our committee members, which consists of Jim McKenna and Jay Lawrence. Jim McKenna also sits on the Regional Economic Development Council for the North Country. So he's actually going to be abstaining for the most part from participating with us, but he did emphasize in our last meeting that in previous award applicants have received professional assistance in the facilitation of the process for gathering community members and ideas and going through a visioning process and having a strong public engagement part of the process, as well as compiling a professional application and submitting a professional application. So there's been heavy assistance from professionals for the previous applicants that have won the And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Donna for our actual ask.
So you'll note that the people that are on this committee have a great deal of capacity amongst themselves to contribute to this. But we were really encouraged by Jim McKenna, who heads up the Regional Economic Development Council, to enlist the help of some professional planners to help us with that application and to make sure that what we submit is really the best it can be for our town. We really feel that we're at a place from an economic development standpoint, the work that we've done over the past few years, that we are extremely well positioned to get this grant, but we have to put together the best application we possibly can. What we would really like to do here is to talk to the town about supporting this as a town, and the town board as representatives of the town, to help us not only create this application, but to endorse the entire process that would happen should we get the grant. This is a really large town commitment that we have to make. To Alicia's point before, if you get this award, the state comes in to help you with consultants, with people from ESD, the Office of Housing Community Renewal. They bring their team in to help you really finalize your projects and your process. So we'll get a lot of help after the fact, but we need some help on the front end of it with the application to make sure it's what we want it to be. The amount of time that we will all put into it on our side with all of the agency and individual support that we will have will more than match what we're asking from the board in terms of the cost of the facilitators to come in. So we've got plenty of skin in the game here. We would like to request that the town both express their commitment for support for the entire effort by way of a town board resolution to support this. And we'd also like to ask the town to provide a funding commitment to cover the cost of hiring an outside facilitator and the production of some video materials that we will need to submit with our application. The estimate for these two major components is $40,000. The end goal of this, of course, is to get the DRI grant. But this $40,000 represents a much larger investment in our community here. The first thing it's going to do is really create this hyper-focused effort on the town, on the part of a lot of stakeholders, our community at large, all of the nonprofit agencies, to really focus in on a plan for downtown and a vision for what that would be. It would significantly increase the amount of engagement of the townspeople, both on the front end of making the application and creating the list of projects that we'd like to include, and on the back end where there's an entire separate and even more robust community engagement strategy where we get the help of the state folks to help us with that. It provides a complete roadmap for approximately the next 5 years of the things that we would like to do from an economic development standpoint in our downtown. It positioned, having done all of this work and submitted the DRI, the information in the DRI provides the foundation for all of the grant writing that we would do with the state moving forward for the next 5 years. And it opens up, we will have done the work that we need to do if we were not to get the DRI, we would have all the work done that we need to do for consolidated funding application grants, which is the annual process for the state of getting, so that we could go for anchor grants and streetscape grants and all of it. We could take these as individual projects and they would be ready to resubmit for the CFA process. There's a couple of other state funding processes that are coming down the pipe, one called Restore New York and one New York Forward. We would be prepared to submit any of this material and even multiple aspects of the material for those grants as well. So you're really creating
everything that you need for the next couple of years for grant funding applications. We also have already, we're already on the map of the Regional Economic Development Council because they are participating in our meetings here with Roost and Jim McKenna. So we're on their map already for that. But this effort will take, and the submission of the application will take us to a whole other level in visibility within the state of our readiness for all future funding. And then when we are able to either get this grant or subsequent grants that come out of it, it really sets us up to create the downtown that we're really interested in, that would create jobs and opportunities and businesses and nightlife and visitor experiences and even some things that are community support, like the arts and childcare and some of these other things that we think are going to be integral parts of this application. Not just buildings, but the other things that go along with it that really create the community that we want to see. The community that's going to enhance the quality of life for the people who live here, the people who visit here, and the people we'd like to attract to live here. So with that, we respectfully submit our request for $40,000 to support this effort and a resolution from the board to support the effort.
So from what I understand, communities that have been successful in that have had professional facilitator and people that have basically written the application, some of the application.
Yes, absolutely. And there's been a substantial public participation plan that's been formed around the effort as well to engage the public at the highest extent.
What is your timeline for funding?
For funding, it's a good question. So we just received.
I try to ask only the good ones.
You're doing a good job. We just received rough estimates from 4 different potential facilitators. We're hoping, because we're trying to be as much ahead of the game as possible to buy ourselves as much time so we don't have to hit the ground. It would be impossible to do this if we waited until mid-March. So we're expecting, we would hope to narrow in and get a contract drafted with a facilitator in about 2 weeks, I would expect. We just had a committee meeting last Tuesday, and we've got committee meetings set every 2 weeks between now and the end of May. So I would hope by our next committee meeting, it's ambitious, but we're all on board, and so I would expect that we could narrow in and have a draft contract by 2 Tuesdays with a dollar amount shored up. We do have an enterprise that is skilled and willing to assist with video production for part of the public participation component. And they're ready to go as soon as we give them a go-ahead, so we can have a draft contract with them sooner. And with all of this said, we can discuss the details of these contracts, and if you all are in support of our request, how the disbursements of this funding can be made. Potentially it should be just directly from the town, because in our minds this is a town-wide effort that we're representing.
It's likely that they would need a portion of the money at the front of the process and a portion at the end when it's complete. So it could be a split amount.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions. So first off, you had mentioned that there's a region that we apply for within that region. Can you kind of give us an idea how big that region is and what other communities we'd be competing against? Do we have some kind of a reference for that?
So, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so we're part of the North Country Regional Economic Development Council. It goes from Watertown to Plattsburgh, and we're at the bottom, Ticonderoga is at the bottom right corner of that region. It's most of what's in the blue line. There's a couple of things that fall out because of whatever their county status is, but that's the region. And there are a number of other, as there've been 6, this is the 6th round, so there are 5 other communities that received this. Plattsburgh, Watertown, Tupper Lake, Saranac, and Malone,
Oh, thank you.
and Malone. And Potsdam, there was one, the last round had 2 recipients, but that's probably over. So you'll see as, I didn't give them in order, but it was Plattsburgh, Watertown, whatever, but that you would see that in the size of the town, it got smaller. The other thing that's really significant for us is that if you look at the map of the towns, and put pins in where the towns that have been awarded this grant, there's something in this year's description of the grant that talks about filling regional holes in their map. And if you look at all of the other regions, their maps are pretty well balanced in where their pins are. If you look at the North Country map, they go across the top and a little bit down on the left-hand side, and there's a whole right side, the right lower 3/4 of our entire region does not have a pin in it. And I think that really, aside from the fact that, we have so many things that are really ready for this, and we're organized enough to be ready for this, I think that is going to be sort of something that comes into play for us this time around.
The next question I've got is, there's 2 different organizations standing here, and you're asking for funding. So who is asking for the funding? What group is it? Is it a TOTDRI, and are
Yes,
you
it's
a
the
registered 501c3, or?
We are not registered, our organizations are registered 501c3s.
Right.
The committee is not.
Not.
It's an ad hoc committee that is comprised of all of these organizations that have 501c3 status, and we believe that we're in representation of the town.
We would expect that the town would pay the entities
Directly.
directly.
So
Right,
that
if
leads
you
me to the
wanted
next
to-
question is, because it's as much money, do we have to have competitive bids to follow our bidding process
That's a good question.
or our
We
procurement
would
process?
be prepared to do that.
I mean, we need to follow our procurement process if the town is going to be paying these professionals, right? So,
Yeah, not necessarily. It'd be the board's call whether there is a professional services, exception to bid. So to the extent that you're, I don't know what they are,
We'll be having like 3 or 4 bids on this. Yeah.
It's in our regular operating procedures to have as competitive a bid processes as we possibly can in this area.
it's different than giving money to an organization
No,
like IEMS or something like that.
Let's say normally we have an agreement with an organization.
Right.
And it's written and signed.
Right. Now that agreement would be, the contract, whatever it is, would be with the individual, whoever those professionals or consultants were. It sounds like it's at least 2, right? It's not 3.
Yeah, it would be similar to hiring a town engineer, I would expect.
So $40,000 as an investment to potentially reap 10 million. I think to do $10 million could go up.
Yeah.
10 million would just be the starting point as well.
There's no lack of projects.
That's not a shared with anybody, the 10 million?
No,
And
that
if we
would
get it,
come
that's-
directly
that's
to
Ticonderoga.
Ticonderoga.
Yeah.
And I guess the other thing is there any kind of a match to that, or is that a true
No.
grant, if you get the grant?
It's a straight out grant. There's no match.
They give you a big check.
Big check. Awesome.
Yeah, look,
It's like Publishers
Wonderful.
Clearinghouse.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Ed McMahon's gonna show up.
Right. So this leads me to maybe a question for the board, but we are still in the first of the year. We passed the ability to revise our budget and create a line item in our budget for this, and we also have a new line item that we've increased our budget from 70, or from 40 to 70 in the, for Tide EMS, can we now revise that budget and do a 2022 revised budget, or are we past that point?
I think we're past that point now.
You create line items
You
on.
can create a line item, but
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
can fund it with whatever.
Yeah,
But you just gotta look at your fund balance to
exactly.
see what you
Yeah,
have.
contingency fund balance,
whatever you can move, you can move.
That's where you need to look at your fund balance.
Okay.
Do we have budgeted money for economic development?
Well, there is, you know, I forgot, I was looking at that the other day, the economic development line. There's money in there, I can't remember how much, and I don't know if it was really earmarked for, it was just in there.
Well,
It wasn't a lot of money. I can check and see what that dollar amount was, but I'm sure it wasn't $40,000.
Yeah. It just kind of going through in my mind is the steps of getting the money in and getting it out, and the best way to handle that, so.
Yeah, I guess we wait until one of the bidders was chosen, one of the two bidders was chosen.
There-
Go from there.
I would like to remind that the 40,000 is an estimate, it's not a specific contract dollar amount at this point, because we still have to narrow in on who could be the facilitator. This was a chicken and an egg approach. We didn't want to move forward and hire a facilitator without any sort of backing or commitment, further commitment by the town.
Well, our commitment would be a dollar amount.
Right.
Yeah.
We're pretty confident we're in the ballpark here.
If it's more than that, you have other alternatives for additional funding, or
well,
shake more people down?
I know some people who know how to shake people down.
Yeah, it's good to know those people. And boss?
I think it's important.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great
Big
program.
amount of money.
40K,
The ratio of 40 to 10 million is.
Of course, I know
Speaks for
Glen
itself.
Falls is still trying to spend theirs.
but I guess back to
It is a process.
more logistics, I guess. So do we need to put these bids out on town letterhead, or town, does it need to come from us as opposed to a committee or under price? I mean, you know what I'm saying? So just thinking about how this is going to go forward, it's got to be a bid that's submitted for the town, and then we have to be, put in a public notice and all that kind of stuff as well.
That's another good question.
Again, you could do request for proposal, right, because you're dealing with professional services.
Right.
I've participated in one, not Falls, so I know the process that you're talking about.
But it would have to come from the town, right?
If the town's gonna pay for it, yes.
Right.
I mean, they could have
I mean,
obtained
those
some
are the
great
other things
proposals.
that we would work with the town on to
Yeah.
have prep. So
And if it's easier to have it go through one of our organizations, we can do that, because we do that all the time.
No, I mean, I think it's okay for us to do it, I just want to make sure we follow the process
Right.
if we're supposed to follow, that's all.
And I also think it would reflect in our application that the town paid for it.
Right.
You know, I think that's a really important
I
part.
think that would look
I
good
know
in the
that's an
application.
important part of the application, is to know that, like, the town is
Committed.
committed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's not to say, like, obviously, like, we're familiar with this process, we know what we're asking for, things like that. You know, we can prepare all of that stuff and give it to whoever's appropriate to put that on letterhead and issue it. We'll give you all the names of the people it needs to go to, you know, all those things. We're not trying to make more work than we have to do.
Well, as everyone knows, I'm a huge fan of moving this town forward economically. This is a pretty good roll of the dice, $40,000 for a potential $10 million. And even if you don't get the DRI, you're now positioned, you've got all that work in place for additional other grants to move forward, other opportunities.
Yeah, there's,
Hopefully a more highly engaged
I mean, this work has to get done,
community at large.
no matter what we want to do. who we want to
Yeah,
do.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
And as I said earlier, it's the successful towns seem to be the ones who get the professionals in there and know how to arrange the application packages and basically sell the town for this money. once again, I would have to look and see if there's any additional funds in economic development, what they're for. I don't think it's not gonna, yeah, then that's not gonna influence the decision as this day says. For one, I'd be in favor of doing a resolution to support it and one to fund at that level.
Don't you think you need to get your fund balance in front of you
Yeah.
and see what you have
I would agree.
before?
You don't need an
You're
answer
making me a
tonight.
little
Yeah,
nervous.
As I said, I'm not moving a resolution, I said I'd be in favor of it.
Yeah, well, they're
Well, now, your second
resolution.
resolution was to fund, you need to get the balance.
Yeah, and we can do that, we can get with,
You just
with
make
the clerks.
the first remarks that they have.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly make a resolution how to support the effort.
Absolutely.
And I
Do you
would-
have something already drawn up, Donna? Do you have a resolution that you drawn up?
No, but we kind of created this so that you could whereas it.
Yeah, it can be easily converted,
Oh,
and we can
okay.
do that for you if you want.
Okay.
Mark first, or brought up.
I'll second.
And perhaps if we can get fund balance issue looked at, we can address this at the financial meeting.
Yep, you need to do an all in favor for your support first.
Yeah, any other discussion?
No, I think.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That's to support it.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. As far as the resolution to actually fund the money, I think it could be done in the finance committee, probably, fair enough. And I think once we have determined that there is enough money in fund balance, then there also should be a resolution to move that money from fund balance, or due from,
Yes.
and put it in whatever line item it's gonna go in, so that we have that moved.
Either create a new line item or put it in the current
Economic
system.
development, or whatever it is, right. So I think that's gotta be kind of a two-step
Yeah,
process.
it is a two-step.
Well, thank you all. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your efforts, good luck.
Yes.
Okay. One more presentation tonight. Casey, can you speak so we can hear you? Okay. So this is Casey from the New York State Power Authority, and he's wanted to address the board tonight regarding smart street lighting. And Casey, I have your slides here. Let me just put them up. I can walk through them for you here. I'll go to your first slide.
Actually, if there's already a few, what I'd like to address is more the nuts and bolts of the street lighting project
Sure.
itself. That slide deck is very specific to our street lighting maintenance service. That service is budgeted within the greater project. The total project summary page, the economics and savings analysis that I provided a couple days ago, that is really the meat and potatoes of the effort. And I'm happy to touch on that maintenance service within that conversation of the finances of how this program works and how we think it what we bring value to the town, if that's okay with you, Mark.
I'm having the worst time
Me
understanding
too.
that.
It's
Oh, good. I thought maybe it was my
I
ears.
like
But it's like really like
I'm
blurry.
really straining to understand what he's saying.
Me too.
Yeah, you're a little garbled, but I think that's a function of our equipment here.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so the Power Authority was given the responsibility some years ago, in the beginning of 2018, to spearhead the state's New York street lighting program. That program aims to upgrade 500,000 streetlights to LED by 2025. And currently, we are somewhere in the range of 350,000 lights. So
Casey?
Nope.
Frozen. So while we're waiting for him.
He can send me a PowerPoint presentation of what he's doing, and I can always put that in the minutes,
Yeah.
because it's,
I can send you what he sent me, but it sounds like it's
Talking
just
like
different.
He's talking now, but we can't hear him.
Casey, you froze and you're talking and we can't hear you.
You can hear you.
Apparently you can't.
Yeah. Can you see you?
Sign language here.
way too
In there?
For decades, and this isn't just for the town of Ticonderoga, this is for everyone across the state streetlights. And so in the moment, 10 people, before you probably to death to read the streetlight tariff. But part of my job to understand that tariff. When you're charged both for energy, supply and delivery, as well as something called facilities charges. And those facilities charges are the vast majority of what you folks have been paying for decades to the utility in the form of payment of depreciation, right, pass-through costs from the utility in the form of depreciation of those assets, as well as service, like maintenance or upkeep of those assets. My calculations are for the utility bill that facilities payment that you make annually to the utility is about just under $58,000 a year, just in facilities charges. To give you an idea of what that means to your total energy spend, your energy delivery and supply costs are about $42,000. So this is a significant revenue stream that the utilities, rightly, according to the tariff, which is all public information and governed by the Public Service Commission, have been receiving from the town. The Power Authority is stating what we think is more, environmentally and financially, and energy-wise, more advantageous to the town, is to get out from underneath that audit, work with the Power Authority, who will cover all the upfront costs of this project, to purchase the system from the utility. So you're no longer paying those facilities charges. Upgrade your assets to LED. Include something called digital asset management controls through a manufacturer that we have competitively bid for digital asset management controls called City Touch through Philips Signify. Digitize your system completely. And begin a proactive approach to how you manage your street lighting system as opposed to a reactive approach in which the investor-owned utility owns the lights and then they respond to outages at their convenience and so forth. So essentially, here in a relatively short period of time that I have tonight, asking the town to consider completely revamping the procedure in which you handle your most visible asset in the town, and empower yourselves to take ownership of these fixtures, dramatically reduce your costs, operating costs to the utility, and for a fixed amount of time, have that debt service on the project, and then after that debt service is complete, reap a significantly larger amount of savings into perpetuity, right? For the rest of the 25-year lifespan of these assets. So the financial picture of this, again, as I mentioned, about $40,000 in costs for energy, $57,000 in costs annually. For facility charges, you pay just under, from your bill, just under $100,000 in energy spend and facilities charges to the utility for your street lighting assets, which you have about 659 fixtures. What looks like 628 of those are what we call overheads, which are those important poles with arms and like a football-looking type light at the end. And then we have, looks like about 31 decorative fixtures, which are more your historic metal pole or, downtown, probably Main Street type fixtures. And I'm suggesting that you purchase all of those fixtures and upgrade them to LED. And design that system based on a very rigorous lighting standard through the in Central New York, large and small, that I've worked with on this exact same type of project. A very common comment that I get is, hey, we don't want to get into the maintenance game. We don't want to worry about managing assets and managing street lighting things. And the answer is you don't have to. That is what the LED street lighting maintenance service is. So to give you a delta of why that service is valuable, just from an economic standpoint, we have competitively procured a contractor called UJ to do our statewide maintenance service, and they have satellite offices across the state to handle these contracts. We estimate roughly $20 a fixture for an annual service contract, right? So that's about just under $14,000 a year for service, for maintenance. That's in comparison to, again, the $57,000, almost $58,000 you pay the utility for facilities charges, which is in essence maintenance, right? So there's an extremely large delta between what we're offering for maintenance, which is routine and unlimited, as opposed to what you're paying now. We estimate your KWH, your energy cost savings, to be about $30,000 a year. This project, estimated total annual savings, is just under $70,000 a year to the town. If you choose to do this, right, finance this project, I'm offering everything, every number, every estimate that you have in your possession that I've calculated for you and provided is extremely conservative, right? So my expectation is that when you enter into design of this project, the actual design should decrease by anywhere between 10 and 15% from what I'm showing here. Just to give you some examples of why this is so conservative, we are assuming, based within this project, 10% contingency, about $20,000 in wiring and system upgrade allowances, an extremely overly conservative purchase price estimate from the utility at about $400 a fixture. That's actually most likely going to be more like $200 a fixture, maybe $250. And I'm showing a pretty conservative financing rate of about 2.5% in single bond. Right? So even in this extremely conservative snapshot that I'm showing you here, your annual positive cash flow in this project is just under $5,000 a year. Right? And that's extremely conservative. I expect that to be more than that. After the term, the town will be saving $70,000 a year for the remainder of the lifetime of these assets, which is again 25 years. More so, if you utilize the digital asset management controls, which is another conversation on value that I can get into, on additional energy savings from the up-and-coming billable dimming tariffs that are going to come out from the utility, as well as elongating the life of the individual fixtures by operating these fixtures not at 100% power like all of your fixtures are now, because you have dark dusk, photocells, but you can give those lights using these digital asset management controls on an individual fixture basis, on a street-by-street basis, on a grouping basis by neighborhood, or downtown, or industrial area, or residential area, or any number of ways that you want to control these fixtures by reducing or increasing the power output. One of the immediate opportunities is you pull these things out of the box and you install them not with 100% power because there's no optimal difference and you can along the asset by about 10 years. So I know I'm saying a lot of things to you folks tonight, but this is an extremely valuable project in our opinion to the town. And again, we've done this everywhere from Syracuse to Amsterdam to Baltimore, even to Rome. I'm working with a number of folks in the North Country on this a similar project. I'm on the agenda to speak with Warrensburg and Mechanicville next month. We had some staffing changes at the end of 2020 for the North Country folks, so I was asked kindly to take over the development of those projects. So you're probably asking, why is it a good guy talking to us over here in Ticonderoga? Well, I'm one of our resident experts on street lighting and the tariffs and how this is valuable to you, and also, again, we had some staff changes, so that's kind of why I'm talking to you folks, but
Casey. I don't, the board is not going to have any kind of a resolution or anything tonight. This is interesting information, and I think as a future project, this might be something the town is interested in. We have some other challenges right now in terms of what the taxpayers are footing bills on in terms of water situations and things like that. Certainly there's some savings to be gained here. Normally I think this would go before one of our committees before it came to the board, but I know you were been waiting for a long time to get a foot in the door so you can at least present your information. So thank you. Yeah, I thank you for coming in tonight. I don't know if anybody has any questions for Casey.
I just want to make sure from the budgetary that folks understand, from a taxpayer standpoint, because as a state employee, I consider myself a steward of the ratepayer. Right, so NYPA's Clean Energy Solutions Group that I represent operates as a not-for-profit, right? We recover administrative costs only, right? So our mission is to act on behalf of all the public entities in the state of New York to be a trusted energy advisor and help you make data-based energy decisions, right? So that's NYPA's mission with regards to how we approach energy projects.
Right.
That being said, as it pertains to taxpayers, this project is a absolutely no money down, cash flow positive opportunity. This project should not cost taxpayers an additional dime. The only question is how long that annual cash flow goes from being roughly $4,700, again, conservatively, I would expect that to rise 10 to 15% annually, and then become $70,000 a year. Right? So that's the only question is how long does that take for the town of Ticonderoga? Right? So I just want to make sure that folks understand the way this project is supposed to work is that the Power Authority covers all costs for this project, and it should absolutely be a cash flow positive project.
Okay.
So just to be clear, Casey, I just want to reiterate what I think you just said. So the upfront cost to purchase the fixtures is footed by NYPA?
Yes, and everything is footed by NYPA, that's correct.
Okay, but once they're purchased, then they would be owned by the town. So you would be purchasing them on behalf of the town, is that right?
Right. We would literally wire you the money, right? So the first step would be, in relation to the utility, is requesting a formal purchase price from the utility. The numbers I provided are a very conservative estimate from my experience, and what I've seen in other territories. They'll provide you a price within 90 days, and then you can agree to that price, and then we begin that process of ownership transfer, through the Public Service Commission. So the Public Service Commission will approve the sale of those assets, and before that sale is completed, we will initiate the maintenance program so there's no gap in service.
By the way, you all had the numbers in
I
the
looked
packet
at
that I
it.
sent you in the
Yeah,
email.
yeah.
Not here.
And the other thing is, when you're talking about fixtures, Casey, you're talking about just the lights themselves, right? Not the poles? The poles would stay, I mean, no?
We have some very old poles in town.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. But I mean, the poles also have, IT on it, they have electrical on it, they have everything on it, right? So we would own those poles?
We do not own any poles.
So there's two different types of fixtures in any type of fixture. Your culvert heads are generally on wooden poles with those aluminum arms, right, and associated wiring. A lot of times those poles will have telecom and various other assets on those poles. So those culvert head fixture, those poles are not for sale.
Okay.
When I talk about purchasing assets, I'm talking about the fixture, the arm that attaches that fixture to the pole, the that reason you mentioned, because of the other assets that are on those poles.
Any questions for Casey?
I think we need to take the time and look at that again.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the information, Casey. This is something that we can look at in more detail as we go on, and perhaps we can have another discussion another time. But I appreciate you bringing the information to us. It's very interesting.
Yes, that's good. Thank you so much.
Yeah. How was the pizza?
I haven't had any yet. I was
Oh,
too busy taking the pizza guy out of the driveway with that stuff.
probably cold now. You better go eat your pizza.
Well, you folks know that it gets cold, and then it gets warm, and then it gets cold again, and I have a pretty long, steep driveway, and it wreaks havoc on the pizza guy.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for attending and giving us the information.
It was my pleasure. I look forward to hopefully being able to do something like this in person sometime.
Yeah, we all like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mark.
All right, well. Okay, that ends presentations for tonight. I know you want more. That's all I got for you.
I want some new speakers or something.
You don't like the garbled ones?
I'm sorry, but that probably will not be anywhere in the minutes.
That's okay.
I'll do whatever
I think
you
we got-
send me
we
for,
just did it.
yeah, whatever you can send me, I'll.
It wasn't that long ago that Chatty made a proposal to the board too, and there was another option, I think, of having National Grid update the goals
Yeah,
that they could do too.
I found this in the files. Yeah, I found this in the
So,
files. and
yeah, I think we
yeah.
need, there's some homework that needs to be
Yeah,
done.
absolutely. I told him that we were not going to come to any decision. He even sent me a resolution and everything. I said, no, that's not going to happen. All right, some opening remarks, coronavirus update. As of the 31st of January, the Board of Supervisors are back in in-person meetings at the county. Number of cases are trending downward. Governor Hochul has lifted the statewide mask or vaccine requirement for indoor businesses. I asked the county manager today what that meant for municipalities of the county and the towns, and he sent me some guidance, which I will put out for tomorrow. First thing I get in tomorrow, I'll try to assemble that guidance and put it out for the staff and our workforce in the field. Just a real quick broadband update. I continue to meet every week with the North Country Broadband Alliance. At this point, I would stress it's important for all the county residents to respond to the broadband survey. I've got a link to it on the town's webpage, on the homepage. This information is going to be necessary for them to continue to go forward and fight for areas that are underserved or not served at all. There's a survey link you can take it on your phone, and you can follow the instructions. There's a speed test there. Obviously, if you don't have internet, you're not gonna, you would use your phone and you wouldn't take the speed test on your phone. But there's guidance information there. I would just encourage you to share with your friends and everyone you know to go to that link and take the survey. Other than that, I don't have any other opening remarks. And nothing from the Board of Health to report, and I'll open it for public comment. You've been waiting very patiently. Anybody have anything? Yes, behind the pole.
I just have one little thing. I copied Mark, but I forgot to copy you, Dave, on a little note that I sent to the Highway Department. I think the town would be really well served by moving that handicap space in front of our office. We see people hitting that stuff all the time. If they just moved it to the other space, they'd have room to, without worrying about people hitting the pole and the sign, and also nice space to pile up snow.
Right. Yeah, I got that. My only question would be, and I guess this is for Highway Department, is does a handicap space have to be the last space on that line of parking there, or can it be in the middle of other non-handicap spaces?
On the other side of the pole, it's the last one as well.
I know, that's what I'm talking about.
So-
That's the handicap spot, right, the last one.
the handicap spot is the last one on this side of the pole, but it could also be the last one on the other side.
Okay.
So, and there's this bigger space behind it between that space and the pole, and it just makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
All right, thanks. Anybody else? Yes.
Yes, Mark, did you have a chance to speak to AES about the portage?
They are going to have Greg was on.
Okay,
They were supposed to start setting up a time before spring, before things got started again, to have a public comment period to address issues that you brought forth, the high curves and stuff.
I did bring pictures so that if they're not here in the winter months, they see how we do maintain.
I stopped up and looked at it.
Oh, did you? This is also something I'm going to bring up in a
I
minute.
climbed over the other day when they got something up to your house.
The people that just bought the house across the road from us, the Gregory's, you remember Don Gregory?
Yeah.
Okay, his 3 sons and a stepdaughter just bought the house. And the whole front of their property was just open. There's no lawn there. So they are concerned about that. And then they're also buying the empty lot that was McBride's house, and there's no opening whatsoever. So he just asked if I would drop that off at the meeting.
In a perfect world, what would you want? No curbing at all?
I would like no curbing at all. Yeah. I would like medium gone, because at one time, one of the guys, depending on who's plowing, they would push it right back to the sidewalk. Then all I would have to do was clean the sidewalk. Now I'm cleaning road, medium, sidewalk, which I've done for years. I don't mind doing it. But it's just, losing 4 feet 2 inches was a lot of space. Yeah.
If that curb, if you move, even if you move it, would there be room to park a vehicle there? It's awful tight.
Not even with, that's why I say even the median, I don't say the word right.
Yeah.
Some of that we don't need that up there. And I looked up, Alan's parents bought the house September 8th, 1941, so there has been a business in the house for 80 years. Yeah. So, it's a concern. Yeah.
Okay.
On another note, positive note, thank you to the fire department for keeping our neighborhood safe 3 weeks ago. They worked hard that night. They deserve to be commended on that.
Thank you. So did water and sewer after the line,
Ex-
right after that.
Exactly, yes. And when I called Sal the next day, I canceled customers because it was complete ice in front of our house. I called Sal, told him it wasn't an emergency, but at some point, when the guys came up to salt, if they could salt the sidewalk, within 20 minutes it was salted. So, good work.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys.
Sorry you had to wait.
Huh?
Sorry you had to wait.
That's all right, I don't mind. You know what, we should come to board meetings and know what's going on in the
It's an
community.
interesting place.
It is an interesting place.
Great things happen
Thank you, guys.
here. All right.
Can I interject as a member of
Yeah.
the public and say, I was very pleased with our highway department, and I know you rode around with them, so you probably got to see it firsthand.
It was Aaron.
They were out several times in
They
that
were out
24-hour
for
period.
50 hours.
Yeah, and I'm very pleased at how quickly they cleaned up downtown, because as you know, that's something that's on my radar. And I also have to compliment the poor Jason Winchell and the sidewalk machine. He has had, it's been tough, because the machine was broken, it's back on the road, but I mean, there was 13 inches of snow.
I'd like to note that they cleaned the businesses so they could open on Saturday, and they did that with Sal and 2 volunteers after working 50 hours.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's looking good, they've still got a lot to go, of
It's
course.
a lot of snow.
Yeah.
Any other public comment? No? Okay. We'll continue with committee reports. Airport, there was an airport meeting this past week. On the 2nd of February, I've attached the minutes to the handout. We did your discussion. I will note that there was further discussion on the old airport tower beacon, which is a continued subject of the town possibly, or that being possibly moved on to town property and displayed at the airport, not the full tower height, but I've informed the individuals that are pursuing that They'll need to come to committee level and then eventually board level with a full thought out, well thought out presentation on how they're gonna move it, when it's gonna be moved, where they wanna put it, how it's gonna be secured, whether it's gonna need security fencing, what liability is to the town, how it's gonna be maintained in the future, repairs, maintenance, things like that. So I told them if they really wanna have a success of this project, they need to come forward with that kind of a well thought proposal. It's not gonna be just, can we move it? Yeah, sure. A little more concerned with that. I'm a big proponent of saving the tower, but at the same time, the town's got to be protected and there's got to be a plan.
Just a good idea.
So that was the airport. Buildings and grounds. Joyce, Dave?
Well, I'm gonna make it quick.
You
Appreciate
always
that.
do.
I always do. Well, there's nothing, no money spent. We got the curtains for the armory. We all know that. We already okayed that. They'll be here in February. They're gonna put them up the end of February. The armory, I had electrical work done for the new office, for Sean's new office. Libraries had some ant problems and a couple outlets, electrical repairs at the armory. No money, no big money.
Thanks for fixing the locks, putting the light
Although
switches
I
on the
can't
outside.
forget about that.
That's a big step. Sean's been able to move his furniture into the office.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go up there and look at it.
You're up.
I'm up, okay.
Yeah.
And guess what I'm gonna talk about first? You've got a copy of my minutes anyways, but Tin Pan Alley. We did have some discussion at the last Parks and Rec meeting, and I did inform the committee members that the future of the property owned by the town of Ticonderoga is now in our hands. And there are some legal and environmental issues that need to be resolved. And Mark did say that he is not sure where we go from here or if we go anywhere. There's concerns about town liability, and certainly we have to have a lot more conversations. And a form that has been completed during jurisdictional inquiry to the APA is
But not
perhaps.
submitted.
But not, I said it's premature.
Yes.
It's
And
premature.
not
It's
submitted.
probably
I
premature.
agree.
And one of the homeowners, Marianne Axman, talked to us again, and she's been doing her homework, as I mentioned at the last meeting. And she shared information she has received from various agencies regarding this property. It is under the jurisdiction of the APA. She's not opposed to the project, but noted there are many environmental issues regarding use of the property that should be considered. And at this point, I'm going to walk away from my notes for a minute and say, where are we going from here?
Okay, so the ball's in my court now. That
Okay.
involves getting a meeting with town attorney and the other interested parties to look at this legally. Right now, the public has access to this property. We need to, I don't want to get into any details here. It really needs to be a client, legal counsel kind of discussion.
So would it be a conversation with you and Matt?
Me and you
And that the public who's,
well, we can have a private conversation first, keep it out of the, just me and maybe one more member and Matt to discuss this before we go any further, but I haven't set that up yet.
okay, well, and I think Matt's not going to be available for a couple of weeks too.
He's gonna go have
He's going to
fun
go and have a
somewhere.
vacation. Good for you. Well, I hope that we'll come to some kind of resolution that will make
Yeah.
some of the people happy, not all of the people happy.
The reason it's not a priority, I don't want to give the impression that it's not a priority, but right now there are other priorities, and
It's
the public
winter.
currently has access. So the town is not denying the public access to the property.
And it's winter, so nobody's going to be using it for that purpose anyways. The town skating rink, Ash Alexander is our attendant, and he's been doing a super job. I didn't have it checked the last day or so, but I understand that up to about 2 days ago, the rink is still in very good condition. Of course, it's warm weather, who knows? And thanks to the work he's put on it, he had to build a base of, did he say 2 feet? He had to build a base of 2 feet before he could put water to it. And then he hand-watered it, hand-flooded it, so that took him another 4 hours. So we're very lucky to have him. He did ask for, were some problems. He asked for some help with the shelter at the rink. There's no outlets in the building.
That's another thing.
You took care of
We
it.
got that fixed.
and he wanted a rubber mat, I'm not sure where that one is. And the basketball court project had stored some materials in, and I'm sure they're gone now too. Okay,
I had that taken out that day.
okay, thank you. He has some donated skates, and I know the Methodist Church has been bugging me to get up there and pick up the ones they have for us too. So I think we probably could just put them in a box and leave them there. I think that's probably the best thing to do, otherwise I don't know how we can let the public use them. How about a security camera, are we anywhere with that?
Well, the next, maybe it's finalized, I guess we got, I called him and he's gonna stand by the quote that he gave us last year with the vandal-proof cameras,
Great,
so.
okay. And that would probably take care of the basketball court too, so, okay.
You gotta look at that committee this time?
Just better, it's been here for,
I haven't been out at night again either, they keep me home at night. I don't know if the lights are working or not either, so they're working, thank you. Usually the woman who lives on the hill tells me what's going on over there, but I haven't seen her in a couple of weeks. There has been some discussion about moving the location of the present rink. At this point, I suggested that we keep it where it is because the budget's going to be really taxed in terms of the expenditures for the new playground, and let's see where we go next year. The new playground equipment, this is keeping me awake at night. I'm hoping that Grant Spalding and Jason Winchell, who are our two groundskeepers, will be able to inspect the playground to determine the placement of the equipment. There's such a thing called use equipment, use area, and I know the swings, for example, have to have a use area of 32 by 32. It's very big, and I'm hoping that our space is going to accommodate that, or we do have some wiggle room to expand the playground area, but we don't have a whole lot. I did ask Derek Fleury about the water lines, and I said, do I need to be concerned about it? He said they've been there forever, and their playground is right on top of them, so it's not a new issue. It's what it is. There was a water break down there a couple of years ago, but it didn't hit the water, it didn't hit the playground. And we're meeting next Tuesday, and hot on the agenda will be the playground installation, the logistics and the timeline, because I've got people lined up to do it, but I just want everything to go smoothly so we don't spend 2 months trying to get the equipment in the ground when it should only take a couple of weeks. And I have some goals for this year, installation of the new playground equipment, have it done by June, skating rink improvements, and investigate landscaping in Bicentennial Park, and determine and map future improvements. So we'll have it on paper.
Okay. Great, thanks. Economic development, we did meet yesterday. We didn't finish, it was late, so we didn't finish till after 4 o'clock. So their meeting minutes did not make the agenda, but they are on the website if you go into the meetings tab. This was the first meeting for the reestablished Economic Development Committee, so we have representation from the town, obviously, TMSP, TRA, Pride, and TAC. So in the future, we may expand that a little bit to include representation for business or seniors, youth, but for right now, it's just these organizations in Ticonderoga that have vested interests or are currently working on revitalization and economic development type projects. So,
did you want to make a resolution?
Yeah, I missed.
oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Well, I looked right past it. I need to make a resolution to accept with regret the resignation of Marcia Hay as the library aide effective January 5th of this year.
I'll second.
So, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed, carried. Sorry, walk right over
I
here.
think the good news is that they have somebody to replace her already, because there was a...
Yes, I heard that.
Yeah, so the library board is very happy about that.
Okay, good. Highway transfer station, Mr. Wood.
I'll do the resolution there after that.
There you go. Don't forget
We need a resolution to advertise for an anticipated vacancy for a full-time transfer station attendant. I'll move it.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried.
Who's leaving?
Richard may be retiring. That's what we've heard. Okay,
Okay, that's it.
nothing else to report?
Oh, yeah.
You done?
No,
I mean, I know you like to
no,
be short, but
I
that's
wish,
pretty short.
I hope you guys want to be here for a while.
Go ahead.
Sum it up.
I'm trying to,
Fine, he doesn't have anything.
I've been scratching stuff out here while I've been talking.
I'm losing paper with all the presentations.
Okay, we met on the 25th at 8 o'clock. Present was Mark Wright, myself, Sal Burnell, and John Deming. Others, Matt Fuller, Heath Towns, and Corey Finney. Corey Finney from 54 Gravel Hill Lane came to talk about the town taking over the road. He feels he pays his fair share of taxes. Last year, he believed it was $29,000. A useless gravel pit was turned into a development and increased the tax base. They still have 3 vacant lots up there. He sold 1 lot, and the town not taking care of the road could be the deciding factor if he puts something on a house up or not. Sal said he is trying to plow with a small truck. Unfortunately, a bigger truck cannot turn around with the wing plow. It can't be a regular routine, as we discussed last year. I have no problem with trying to do it, but it has to be after the regular routes with a smaller truck. The road itself really needs to be resurfaced, which would be around $30,000 to resurface the road. John Deming says we need to wait until spring and get a shopping list of what really needs to be done before we can say we will take over the road. Last he knew, he said the state would not give a permit to do this. We need to really look into this. Mark Wright stated that it is more of a snow plowing, and he would want the town to cover year-round, so we will need to own the road. Corey said yes, whatever comes along with what the town does for others. Sal said, we have been dealing with this for the past few years. Let's move forward and see what needs to be done to take care of this. Myself, John, and Sal in the spring will look at it in the shopping list and decide if we can or cannot do it. Corey stated, it sounds like a plan. When should I approach him about transferring the roadway over to me? Meaning Mike Steppel. He's still in his name. We kept it in Mike's name for potential liabilities. That was not the deal that I didn't want to get into when I purchased the property. And Corey said it sounded like a plan, and when the snow starts to melt, he will be back in touch with us and thank us for his time. These are Sal's reports. He assisted with 4 water breaks this month. Did some repairs on T45. We had to take it to Plattsburgh to put springs under T45. T46 got a sander chain, and T49 got a new plow harness. They've had 5 snow events. The sidewalk plow has been down. We received the parts today, and we'll be installing them to get them back on the sidewalk and get them cleared as soon as possible. We changed 3 of our plows to a live bottom edge. They seem to be working excellent. These are something we put into the budget last year. These are cheaper and are easy to repair, very accessible. They seem to be working better. And what they are, in case anybody knows, it's a foot-long spring-loaded section that goes on the bottom of the plow, and it goes with the contour of the road. And you probably notice the roads are bare. I mean, it takes it right down to nothing. So, and they seem to be better working than the old style. The issue with the COVID relief, 4 guys not vaccinated had to quarantine, and 3 guys vaccinated had to man a snow event with just a 3-man crew. They did a great job covering the roadways. Would like to look into doing something for those 3 guys. This is important to me for the morale in the department. Non-union. They had a question, is non-union, are they covered under the collective bargaining agreement? And how protected are you if you're not part of the union? Rules and regulations on how we're going to handle this. This is being looked into. We will discuss more about the collective bargaining agreement. There's a new law coming out in February, which is already out on the 8th, where you need to have a 4-week training for CDL, and that costs roughly around $4,000 for CDL drivers to have. In the collective bargaining agreement, we need to discuss compensating them because there's a shortage of drivers throughout the county. This is a new training and it's becoming very costly. And I was up there one day and the guy from the county was down there and he said the anticipated storm coming up. He said he was going to be driving. He said, we do not have drivers. So, I mean, it's getting, he's right. You got one, don't you, Tom?
Not anymore. I gave mine up.
Oh. Well, anyways, and he would like, and he also complimented Mark on showing up at the meeting at the highway garage. He thought it was great. The guys appreciated being able to discuss things with him, hearing how things will be handled, and it brought the morale up. And, okay, just one more thing. The sidewalks are being discussed, and we need to go back out for bid for these. We're making a list of the sidewalks that need repair to make a plan of what we were repairing and replacing. We have a meeting with the Public Works to discuss the sidewalks, and we've already did that. So.
And just for clarification, those lists already exist, we just have.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that's it for. Oh, well, one more. Next meeting is the 22nd at 9:15.
I have a question, since they brought up Gravel Hill Road again. I thought we were done with that, but I guess we're not.
I thought so too, and then it seemed like there was a lot of support for the town potentially taking that over again.
But
Where does a lot of support come from?
yeah, I want to have.
Well, Highway was totally against it,
Yeah.
and now they're not.
Well,
The public has made the case that, they're paying taxes and.
well, I pay taxes on Delaware Drive. Maybe I should ask to have that be, because it's a private road.
I think John is right too, because I think, if I remember right last year, I think maybe you were, that I think the state did say that it was the line of sight coming onto the road, that that's the problem. But, I mean, trucks have gone in and out of there for years, but they're saying that the line of sight, to the south, it was bad.
Well, and I guess over on the subject, my concern about any private road that the town takes over is that everybody else is going to want to jump on the
That's what I'm
bandwagon.
So
I mean, I live on a very similar private road. It'd be great if the town would plow it for me instead of me paying for it and maintaining it, but, that's not the case, so, I think there's a point where, unless it really, really benefits the town in some way,
And certainly nothing's been done yet, it's just
right.
talk.
yeah.
And Keys Brook was another example. But that one is a town road.
Okay, what do you have to share, Tom, from the municipal facility world?
Well, I'm not going to read all the minutes. I'm going to hit the high points here. The minutes are posted on the town website for anybody that wants to read through them in detail, but it was the first meeting of the year for the Municipal Facilities Evaluation Committee, which was held on January 24th. We did confirm the committee members for 2022, which is going to be myself as chair, Tom Thatcher, Chris Dotsey, and Mike Mosier. We will add another committee member at some point, which will be another town board member once we go through that process, and then decide what committees and those things that person's going to sit on. So the other people in present was Mark Wright and Dave Woods. We did confirm the time of our monthly meetings for the year, which is going to be the last Monday of the month, 6:30 p.m. And we're going to try to stick to that as close as we can. Of course, there's things change, but that's going to be the meetings going forward. We did have discussions on goals for 2022 we can look at. One is to review the Franker report, and Chris Dotsey volunteered to create a matrix, which he sent a draft of that out. I received, I believe it was yesterday, maybe today. to look at, which will identify items of all the town buildings in the economy report that were requested in that report to be looked at and repaired, and then we'll go through and line item out the ones that have been completed, so we can identify those items that were listed in that report, and then try to prioritize those on which items still need to be looked at and repaired. The other goal was to have ADS complete the location and layout for the police station. They have started that study and expect to be completed by mid-May, so we'll continue forward with that. There was a discussion about, at some point in time, to look at hiring a design-build company once we have some specs to determine more accurately the cost for such a facility. And that's something we'll look at again as we go forward and get some additional items. The other goal for this year is to get an evaluation on the highway building for a comprehensive plan to upgrade that building and renovate it, I guess as the case may be, and then compare that to a cost to build a new building, and AES will be getting with Sal to talk about his needs and requirements and what he needs and size of the equipment and et cetera, so we can be able to have a detailed analysis, so we've got the details so we can discuss that and make an evaluation with all the facts in place. Dave Woods did say there's a cost estimate done a few years ago. He was going to forward that to us along with some reports from the other folks that done on the structural integrity of the building. So we're looking forward to seeing that. And then the other item to be discussed as the year goes on is to determine if we move the police station out, what's going to happen with buildings and grounds, and what we need to do with that, and where to locate them, whether they stay where they are, or whatever. That's got to be discussed and evaluated going forward, so that's another goal. We did set a meeting and have confirmed time and date to go to Virginia's to look at their police station along with the chief and most of the members. I don't know that they're all going to participate. Most of the members on the committee are going to go over there, as long as a small couple of folks from ADS tour that facility, get an idea, and have a chat with the chief about what he would be looking for. So that's really what we had in a nutshell. The next meeting is scheduled for February 28th at 6:30, and we join the meeting at 7:30 that evening. And that's really it. Any other details can be found in the...
Thank you. Public safety?
Okay, I have one resolution, I will do that. It's to advertise for our next, I've already done that, right? No, that's for highway. Yeah, okay. Okay, public safety. Is to authorize the supervisor to direct StoreTech to replace the Netgear Ethernet Smart Switch at Ticonderoga Police Department at a cost of $909.99.
So let me give you some background here. The current switch that they have at the police station is keeps failing. It has failing ports, and so they want to replace that. It's a 10-port Ethernet device. That price is for the switch, the hardware, setup, installation, testing, and for StoreTech travel. So that's where you get that $909.99.
That's it.
So you moved it?
Yeah, I moved it.
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, we met on the 25th at 8 o'clock. The following committee members are myself, Joyce Cooper, Ross Kelly, Dave Burrows, Leanna Peters, Chief Hulbert, and Jen Gannon. Guests were Supervisor Wright, Aaron Bush, and Tom Cunningham. Note the public participation. Tom Cunningham asked about the road off Montcalm Street, McCormick Street. Is it a one-way street? Chief Hulbert stated legally no. It's just a suggestion for cars to go that way. It's not enforceable because the sign is going the wrong way. This should be brought up at the highway meeting Chief states it would be helpful if it was made a two-way street. Supervisor Wright asked what we can do about the parking on Lake George Avenue, south of Calkins. Chief Holbert states this is considered a secondary road, not a state road, and there is zero enforcement that he can do without no parking signs. We can write tickets if they are parked on the sidewalk. Chief Holbert goes over the police department monthly report, which I'll do. And I mentioned to the committee about dogs, to have everybody, the police and everybody else, keep their eyes open for dogs that are tied out during this cold weather, and to report it to the police department.
Or any animal. Or any animal.
Yeah, right.
They need to have shelter with those. Sorry.
No, if it was,
Any
I
animal.
didn't know they tied cats out.
Some do.
No, I-
Right over here.
Well, I agree with you, anything, absolutely. But anyway, Codes Department, Leanna went over the monthly cost, which I'll do. Dave Burrows stated that he boarded up 29 Myers Street and has been trying to get a hold of the owner. These towns stated Officer Town did an excellent job on the call to Super 8. I think it was unlocking the car, Keith?
No, this one was helping a homeless gentleman.
Oh, okay. It doesn't say. Okay, Chief Howard would like to mention how fortunate it is, well, this is back to the EMS, that, he would like to see that it was a complete agreement of the committee, which have already stated that he would like to see the town, back to tie EMS. The next meeting is next meeting is 22nd at 8. Chief's report is he had approximate calls to service 456, incident reports 25, arrest 15, uniform traffic tickets 28, DWIs 1, accidents investigated 11, speed trailers out of service. Patrol unit 7B377 is returned to service. Officers responded to 85 Montcalm Street for a male subject who had overdosed. Officers used Narcan to revive the subject. The male subject was believed to have overdosed on heroin. Male subject signed off on medical treatment with Ticonderoga EMS. Officers responded to 134 Burgoyne Road for a male subject who had overdosed. Male subject was still responsive upon police arrival. Male subject had ingested a large quantity of prescription pills. Male subject was transported to the hospital by EMS. The Ticonderoga Police Department has received 2 reports of counterfeit money being used as tendered in local stores. As a result, the police investigation officers arrested Lincoln Gunning on January 14th, 2022. Gunning was charged with 2 counts, possession of forged instrument, second, and 1 count of petty larceny. He was arraigned in the Spring Lake Town Court, where he was released to reappear at a later date. As a result of the police investigation, officers arrested Sarah Sandberg on January 18th. Sandberg was charged with 2 counts of possession of forged instrument, second, D felony, and 2 counts of possession of stolen property, fifth, a misdemeanor. Sandberg possessed 2 checks that belonged to another and cashed one of them at a local bank. Upon learning the checks were alleged to be stolen, the bank denied cashing the second check. On January 9th, officers from Ticonderoga Police Department were dispatched to a residence on Main Street in Crown Point, New York, for a report of a domestic dispute involving shots being fired from a weapon. Thai PD officers located Vincent Gibbs, reported suspect to a traffic stop. Gibbs led police on a pursuit that ended up on Veterans Road after wrecking his truck. A .22 caliber rifle was found in the vehicle. Gibbs was taken into custody, issued traffic tickets for offenses that occurred in Ticonderoga, and turned over to the New York State Police for their investigation into the incident that occurred in Crown Point. On January 18th, officers responded to 216 New York State Route 22 for a male under the influence of narcotics, armed with a knife. Christopher Porter was arrested and transported to Glens Falls Hospital Behavioral Health Unit to undergo mental evaluation. Additional charges are pending. On January 22nd, officers responded to Super 8 motel for a male subject who did not have any place to stay and was attempting to sleep in his vehicle in sub-zero temperatures. The officers discovered that the elderly male was attempting to stay at the hotel but had insufficient funds. The elderly male was from Minerva but stated that he had left because he could not heat his home. Officers assisted the elderly male by contacting Essex County Social Services, who had set him up in emergency housing. Building codes, they issued 10 permits, safety inspections 3, and they all passed. They had two residential construction permits, 1 modular home permit, 2 shed permits, 1 pole barn, 1 repairs, 1 foundation repair, 1 roof, mounted solar panel, 1 re-roofing permit, and 1 fire safety inspection. They had 1 order to remedy, which was done. And that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say something about way back at the beginning?
That is on parking.
Yes, it is. No, it's about a road, actually. I guess I should be the parking police. Ross, got me laughing. Ross Kelly brought up the road, and I think what he was talking about is the road that starts, it's not McCormick Street, because McCormick Street is only the stretch from Champlain Avenue to Tower Avenue.
Correct.
The rest of that, along the back of the buildings, is not a road, town road, and it's not named. For some reason or other, somebody stuck a one-way sign up there, but I don't even know who authorized that. So that whole place is a nightmare in terms of fact, it's not a road, but it needs to be maintained, and now we have a tenant in the downstairs business, the old Sears building, who needs parking too. So I think either highway or somebody needs to resolve that place, that whole area back there, and decide whether or not.
I do believe that the arrow was put up there by the town many moons ago, because you cannot come off from that road into that intersection the way it is now, the 3-way stop, because you can never kind of come out.
It's hard to get in either way, to tell you the truth. It's a mess, and I think somewhere along the line, we need to take some kind of stand on how to deal with that, not tonight, of course.
Maybe you could move the building next to it so the road can run out at the 4-way intersection there?
Yeah.
I like that.
Maybe.
And actually, I found the deeds on that, and we have to guarantee that there is access in that roadway, because there used to be a commercial structure back there, and it's still in the deed that has to be accessible to anybody who needs to use it. So.
But that is town-owned property though, right? When you say it's not a named road, it is the town, I
there's
mean,
some-
part of that road is or it's not, I don't know.
Part of it, there's
Part.
an easement that goes across it.
I
It's
assumed it was, but I don't know.
No, it's really cut up in there.
Yeah.
I actually have a survey that I can show you, but not tonight.
Yeah.
I'm just bringing it up to say we need to do something with that. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Public Works, the minutes are attached to the agenda, I won't belabor that. There's a number of resolutions in this area tonight. First, a resolution to authorize training and prepayment vouchers for registration, hotel meals and travel for Cole Russell, the grade 2A certification course in Portland, March 7 through 17. Cost is $1,000. And this is to certify Colt as a water treatment plant operator. I will move that.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed, carried. Resolution to authorize training and prepayment vouchers and registration, hotel meals and travel for Tanner Wright for the grade D water operator certification course in Morrisville, July 7 through 8. Cost is $325.
So move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. The next two are change orders for the Veterans Road Project, AES Project 4921. The first one, change order 1, this is for rock ledge removal that was encountered when they were crossing Veterans Road during the installation of the new 8-inch water main. This was not anticipated. It wasn't in the original contract for that rock removal. So this month is these ones that are paid for that. resolution reads to approve work change directive number 1 of the AES contract, AES project number 4921 for services related to time, material, and equipment associated with Veterans Road project in the amount of $6,106.67.
I'll move it.
Okay, moved. Need a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a question, does this still keep us under the budget for because this is all rolling up underneath the original contract. Is this still underneath that original budget?
Did you hear that, Greg?
Yes, that amount of money is actually coming out of the general allowance. I believe the next resolution is the final number. So overall, the project's about $15,000 under budget, plus or minus.
Okay, but it's still underneath the overall budget for, that we're gonna go to long-term financing for, right?
Yep, yes, yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Where are we on the chapter? I
All in
got
favor?
lost. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carried. Number 2, as Greg said, this is a resolution to the work change directive number 2, AES contract project 4921 for quantity adjustment as allowed in project general conditions associated with Veterans Road project in the amount of $5,926.80. And Greg, you kind of just went into this a little bit, but this involves all of the pipe that was purchased under the contract was not actually used, and so we're doing a little trade-off here. And instead of adjusting the unit price, the town will be keeping the piping for eventual repairs, correct?
Yeah, yes, exactly. There's about 100 some odd feet of pipe that we didn't use, so turning it over to Derek for his use later on.
So, okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you. So I will move that one.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. The next 3 involve the engineering planning grant program. These are resolutions that the town needs to make in accordance with this program. The first one here is, and just for everyone's background, engineering planning grant program. This is a program that helps fund municipalities pay for their initial planning of water quality, infrastructure improvement kind of projects. And Ty was awarded around $30,000, I believe. Yes, $30,000 for specifically the water treatment plant phosphorus removal that we've heard about from committee. And so these 3 relate to that. The first one reads, resolution of the town of Ticonderoga hereby determines that the proposed wastewater treatment plant phosphorus removal study project is a type 2 action in accordance with 6 New York Code of Rules and Regulations, section 617.5C, paragraph 24, which constitutes information collection, including basic data collection and research, water quality and pollution studies, traffic counts, engineering studies, surveys, subsurface investigations, and soil studies that do not commit the agency to undertake, fund, or approve any type 1 or unlisted action, is therefore not subject to further review under that code.
I'll move it.
Second. I didn't want you to have to read it again.
Yeah, it's a long one, huh?
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution authorizes the supervisor to execute a grant agreement with the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation and any of all other contracts, documents, and instruments necessary to bring about the project and to fulfill the town of Ticonderoga under the grant agreement.
I'll move it.
Okay, any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And the last one here, resolution authorizing the town of Ticonderoga to appropriate a minimum 20% local match as required by the engineering plant grant program for a wastewater treatment plant phosphorus removal study project. This local match must be at least 20% of the EPG grant award of $30,000. The source of the local match in any amount in excess of the required match shall be the town's sewer fund. Maximum local match will not exceed $6,000 based upon a total estimated maximum project cost of $36,000. The town of Ticonderoga supervisor may raise this local match through the use of in-kind services without further approval from the town board.
So moved.
Motion, or a second?
I'll second.
Any other further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Okay, that does that.
I guess,
You got anything on Human Services Youth?
No, because we did not have a quorum, so there's.
Oh, that's right. A number of resolutions here. I don't know if you want to go through these,
Yeah.
Joyce.
Or do them as a, we have to do them all separately, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is their listed, yeah.
So resolution to accept with regret the resignation of Wendy Barber as an activity attendant effective January 1st of this year.
I'll move it.
The 10th, I'm sorry.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Resolution to apply for activity attendance for the Ticonderoga Youth Program, and I think we've already done that, haven't
We need more.
Do it again.
we? We're doing it again?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution to advertise for lifeguards and head lifeguard for the 2022 Ticonderoga beach season.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution to advertise for day camp director, assistant day camp director, camp counselors, food service helpers, and a cook for the 2022 summer camp program.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And I'll do this last one. I have some backup information.
Okay,
here for
that's
this.
fine.
So everyone understands or knows by this point that Mark Russell, before he left, was working with Silver Bay to come up with a new license agreement for the use of the Armory for their youth program services. Matt actually wrote the licensing agreement. Since that has been written, there's been a couple of minor adjustments, and that includes one that will turn the utility room of the Armory over to our recreation supervisor's office. And the two front offices on both the north and the south side of the main entrance will be given to Silver Bay for their use. It's kind of a compromise that we had. Actually, I think the utility room works much better for the town in terms of visibility into the gym and into the entryway of the Armory. So, update on that, the light switches have been moved to the outside so that gym lights can be turned on without accessing the office. The locks have been changed so we can keep that facility secured. And we're checking on the phone, but there's a phone line in there, we just haven't verified that it works. So Sean's moved his stuff into there, and so. But anyway, part of this agreement involves sharing the gym space, and Silver Bay is going to fund a partition. They'll cut the gym in half used for Silver Bay, half used for the town when it's necessary, in addition to 2 additional basketball hoops that will come down. They will pay for all the equipment. All they're asking for is the town to commit money for installation. Installation costs for the divider, the curtain, is $22,378, and installation for the basketball hoops is $2,840. They have an installer is by the dealer, actually, working through the dealer. So that's a total of $5,218 that the town would have to fund for the installation. It would become town property. So after Silver Bay leaves, it's our partition, it's our basketball hoops. Personally, I think it's a small amount in order to get this partnership going again, and it's actually probably a good add to the facility. Sean's done a great job in developing schedules that seem to work for everybody in this agreement. Peter Tolliver and Carolyn have been very cooperative with the town in terms of making this all mesh and work out. Sean Trice has been part of some of these discussions. So right now, the resolution for the board, keeping in mind that it's some point, we're gonna have a resolution to, do the installation money. Resolution before the board to authorize the supervisor to sign the license agreement with Silver Bay YMCA. And, I will move that, and if there's some discussion. Have that.
I'll second.
Okay, good. Is there some discussion on this?
No, we already said, just, we're gonna watch it. That's all.
We hope it works.
It sounds good so far.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed, so carried. Okay, well, I don't think we have anything from seniors, do we, Tom?
No.
Yeah, okay. So, cemetery, interesting story. Apparently in the prior administration, there was some discussion between the supervisor and Sexton about getting a computer, a backup external hard drive, and a digital camera for them to conduct their cemetery archival work. They used to have a system that this was on, I don't know how many years ago, it crashed, and never had a backup. They have to reconstitute all the data now that they had going forward, which is why they want the external hard drive for backup, and they also want to back up the data again to the server. Interesting thing about the laptop that they need something that's robust that can go into the field for their work. So the fact that that is a requirement, and the fact that the software that they use for this is called Quantum, has some pretty significant specifications in terms of what it requires spec-wise, which means that this is not going to be a $400 computer. It's actually $2,182.81. Not cheap, but apparently this is something that's been requested for some time, and I think Becky would really appreciate it if we could move this off forward in some manner. Now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I attend these cemetery meetings, and I know there was a lot of distress about the lost records, and I'm not sure what the whole story is. I've heard it's been discussed many times on Washington, that somehow or other, they didn't have, there wasn't proper backups, and they've lost all the
There wasn't.
Who has the records?
Apparently Bill, and,
Do we
The
have-
sexton should have them.
yeah, he has to go with it.
Bill has.
I have records. He comes in my office all the time.
Yeah,
and
he says-
copies and,
Yeah,
you know, because it is a town cemetery.
Right.
yes.
So we're supposed to have all the records. Yeah.
And it's still an active cemetery too, so that changes a little bit.
Yeah.
So we do have a software program for him, and he can't use it. There was a computer. It's a long story.
It's a long story that I'd like to not have any longer.
Yeah.
I think
Would
he's
it
in the
be on
process.
our computers? I mean, could-
Well, that,
with all that stuff?
the backup is what's gonna save it, because that should be on file also in our office.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
can't just be, so backups should be stored or kept, I don't know if they can be on our
Off-site.
server or.
Yeah, one will be on our server, which will be off-site, and one will be on his external hard drive.
So there'd be two.
Yeah, at least. I'm not sure if he'll also have one on his laptop as well. I don't know what kind of memory requirements he needs for that, but there'll be a backup. Yeah.
And he's in the process of grooming somebody to take over, should he not be able to do it. And she's very competent. And so that's good news.
Probably silly question, but the GIS program we have to identify and locate all the infrastructure in town and highways and all that stuff, is that not something that could be used for this? If
I thought
Greg is on board, I'd ask him, but I don't think he's still with us.
his signal keeps dying. I got the impression from Bill that this is very specific software, so it would probably not interface with a GIS system.
That's just a question we
No,
have. It's supposed to be
not.
pretty robust, what we got to track all kinds of stuff, so I don't know if it would work or not, but anyway.
And I guess the question is answered, that he doesn't have money in his budget for that.
Another funny story. Apparently, the money was earned through whatever process that he had. He claims that the money was there. It was never put in as a line item in the budget. He and Becky were having a discussion about this. I was looking I couldn't track what he was saying, but
Sometimes.
the short answer is, no, there's no line item for this. And it was nothing that was carried through from the 2022 budget. That's basically the story.
I have to say that
So
that's a
do we
very
need to do
dedicated
a
committee, so they work
from
on forever.
money into that budget for this expense?
We would have to look and see where we want to move money from. Yeah. I don't know what's in, I haven't looked at like what's in the supervisory budget that maybe I could move around. But a little more expensive than what I was hoping it was going to
Yeah,
be.
that's very expensive. I guess I only read the first sheet, it wasn't bad, I didn't get to the second.
Yeah. Just keeps on getting. So we'll have to look and see where we can move some money from this.
Well, he's not meeting, that committee isn't meeting for a while, so you know, maybe we just worry about table this until next
Yeah,
month,
we can do
until
that.
you do some investigation.
We can do that. Okay, I don't have anything on health insurance. I don't have anything on contract negotiations, although we will be getting into those. Did we get anything for cable?
We did not, I think that's a.
It's up first.
Ever, yeah, I don't know that I've ever not had something from people.
All right, rolling down the remaining resolutions here.
You go, man.
Resolution to accept and regret the resignation of Stephanie Flora Mitchell for the Ticonderoga Planning and Zoning Board. I'll move that.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution to advertise for a position on the Ticonderoga Planning and Zoning Board as an alternate member.
I'll move it.
Second? Go ahead, Joyce.
All right, Joe second. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Just a quick comment to that, just when I saw this, it occurred to me, the fellow that was in our EDC meeting the other day said he had 13 years on the planning board.
Yes, he did.
And, was that his name? I don't remember.
Steve Miller.
Steve,
Yeah.
right.
I know him pretty good now, I'll call him.
And wouldn't sound like he would want to be on full-time, but I would certainly think he
wants to
might
get
want to be
more
on as a
involved.
member, want to get involved, that he might be worth a call, just
Yeah.
occurred to me.
Maybe we should talk to him.
I will. He has expressed that he wants to be a little more involved with the town now that they've
I
been
think
there.
that'd be a great place for somebody who's got 13 or 14 years
Yeah,
experience on the
maybe.
Very
planning board.
knowledgeable on the library,
Yeah.
right?
Most of the time I'm pounding the pavement looking for somebody because nobody applies.
Yeah.
All right. Resolution to accept satisfactory findings of the 2021 court audit.
Move it.
Need a second?
Second.
All in
Did you
favor?
finish yours? Wait a minute, I don't know, I wasn't there.
Yes, I did, but you had to come back and sign yours.
Okay.
He did, he's also.
He did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a good second?
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Let's see, okay, the next three, these are all RFPs that went out to bid. We only had one bidder for each one of these. So resolution to award the annual general contractor bid to Dave Ross Construction. Bid is on file.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Resolution to award the annual electric bid to Our Electric. Again, bid on file.
I'll move it.
You want to second that?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And a resolution to award the property cleanup bid to Adirondack Mountain Seasonal Care. I'll move that one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Next one is our firewall protection is expiring, so we need to renew this. This is a resolution to authorize the supervisor to renew a three-year renewal of the town's Meraki MX64 Enterprise firewall software licensing at a total cost of $3,841.01.
I'll move it.
Second.
Second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So carried. A resolution to authorize supervisor to approve the proposed retainer from Honeywell Law Firm. I have that in your package to review. Just so you know, their rates for a partner is $250 an hour, an associate is $200 an hour, and paralegal is $60 an hour, so.
How much of a deal am I?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We so appreciate
I'm not
it.
familiar with the name, but is this,
The town is
guy
using.
that Ben using?
Yeah, the
And
town
that's
is
the
using.
HR guy, that's, yeah.
For labor.
So I will move that one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Okay, this one's kind of personal to me. We have a couple of clerks who have this Adobe Acrobat Pro DC. This is what you need if you want to electronically sign Adobe documents, if you want to edit them, if you want to convert them back to Word. I have to keep sending these documents home and using my personal soft license to do this and then send it back. So this resolution is authorized the purchase and installation of Adobe Acrobat Pro DC for one machine at the cost of $465.99.
So, can I have something?
Yes.
This is to convert it to Word.
This is to,
Where's this done?
yeah, it's
I
to,
need this too.
do you?
Yes, I do.
I was thinking,
Sure.
you, not to interrupt your
No.
discussion, but, you might check with StoreTech, they might be able to get you like an
This is StoreTech.
They do all of ours, and like, I
Yeah.
have it, all of our computers.
I can't do anything with that.
It's,
Well,
I
that's
use
what
it.
I've been having trouble with for the last 5 months.
I use it for everything, yeah.
Maybe less expensive in the long run to do multi-user
I
license.
I can check.
They're pretty expensive, that number doesn't shock me. I think we
Yeah,
pay
yeah.
that for like.
Oh, yeah, I paid $400 for it.
Yeah.
I've been asking for this for about 6 months now,
Oh my
since I
God.
got
Really?
my new computer.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, the same thing here. This was new too, so.
Maybe a two.
Maybe they'll
Yeah.
reduce the cost.
Well, I
We
can.
did have a license and he was gonna put it on my computer, but I would just as soon have updated, because I need to have it.
Oh my goodness.
Can you do it today,
Yeah.
or can you?
How about if
I mean, I have PDFs that I have to convert to Word and for these minutes, and I have been having to type everything all over. Them's the old days.
Yeah.
This is, we've got to move forward.
how about if I modify the resolution to make the amount not to exceed, like $1,000?
Yeah.
That way we can get the, okay, so, new resolution modified says, resolution authorizes the purchase and installation of Adobe Acrobat Pro DC license for 2 machines at a cost not to exceed $1,000.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah, you should have said something there.
Well,
She just
I've
did.
been muddling through. I
Yeah,
don't ask for much over
it's
there.
pretty hard to model here. Okay.
I take what I get and I don't throw a fit.
The next one, American Rescue Plan Act. This resolution, the background is needed to receive the funds. In order to receive the funds, the town has to have this subrecipient agreement on file, and it kind of outlines what the town has to do, what they have to provide to the county, what they have to comply with in terms of conditions and guidance, and how the town has to maintain records. So this resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign the American Rescue Plan Act subrecipient agreement with Essex County. I will move that.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Resolution authorizing, okay, let me go back on this one. Eastern Light Partners Solar Pilots, this is a leftover from last year. This has gone through legal review. We currently have an MOU with the IDA. They handle all these types of solar projects for us in terms of the MOU, make sure that they're reviewed properly and administrated properly. So this particular one authorizes the supervisor to sign the Eastern Light Partners Solar Pilots or reviewed, negotiated, and administered by Essex County IDA in accordance with a memorandum of agreement between the town of Ticonderoga and Essex County IDA. I will move that.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Some financial resolutions here. This first one, authorizing the following interfund transfer. This is $70 into the Eagle Lake project. This is an attorney fee, so I will move that one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution authorizing the following budget transfers. This first one from contingency, this is an interesting one. This was, the heating oil that was budgeted for the highway garage was not input correctly. It was a value for the 2022 budget of like $1,800. When in fact it should have been, yeah, it should have been around $32,000 or something like that. Which means this is why we have to take this out of contingency. This was, whether the number was meant to be something else, I don't know, but that's not what got put in the budget. I don't really want to see Sal freeze to death up there, but, so what we decided to do, Becky and I decided just to move $10,000 from contingency and see how far that takes them into the season. If we have to do more, we will, but I'd rather not touch contingency more than I have to. So this authorizes this $10,000.
Should probably go over, because they're not using the waste oil.
Yeah, and since you mentioned that in the future,
Work can do that more.
Oh, because I used to bring my stuff to them.
they're gonna be doing away with it. Which means in the future, we will probably be paying more on this budget line item. So. But anyway, I will move this one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. Next one, under budgeted sewer accounts from contingency.
So those are all included.
Oh, okay,
So-
you're right, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right.
No, we have any questions on the rest of it?
It's in the top of the other page too. So, to left here, the resolution authorizing the following interfund loans. These are some coding errors and some were not broken out correctly. I will move that one.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
You guys thought, but take turn place here.
Yeah, this is like, take,
Should just go boom, 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 right
just
back.
go down and then move back up.
Make a circle.
Just point at us.
And the last one here, in terms of the accounting ones, resolution authorizing the following budget adjustments. This was, this was for a water booster on Kennedy Drive. Yeah, that was installed. I'll move that one.
Second.
See, I'm gonna have to point.
Yes.
This is
I
not
was
working.
waiting to hear.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
So carried. And Tanya, we're getting down to the end here. You excited?
Yeah.
Resolution to accept and correct the minutes of the organizational meeting, January 4th, 2022, and the regular town board meeting of January 13th, 2022.
I'll move it.
Second.
Yeah, that's great. All in
Right,
favor?
I like that.
Aye.
Aye, so carried. Resolution to pay the abstract.
I'll move that.
Definitely.
Okay,
Second.
second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so carried. Resolution to accept the supervisor's report as submitted. Any of your
I'll move it.
All right. Moved by Dave,
Second.
second by Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
So carried. I have a resolution here to move into executive session, discuss matters related to the appointment of a particular individual. Specifically, this is in relation to our appointment for the board position. So, shouldn't take long. I will stop the recording here.
You want to do
Move
that
that.
before you do me and Matt?
Oh, no, yeah, we can do that. I was gonna do that anyway. But forget that, we're not moving yet.
Okay.
What do you have, Tanya?
Well, so this is why you were warning me earlier. This is the first time in my 20 years that I have never met the town's warrant yet collecting taxes,
Okay.
which means your contingency or your fund balance
Yep.
may have to be used until I get that collected.
Okay.
I'm under $100,000. I don't know if it's COVID, people aren't paying their taxes, but this is the first time that we have not been paid by this board meeting.
Are they into penalties now?
Yes, now they're into penalties, yeah. So that is a big concern for me and the money that this town has in it. That's why I was worrying earlier.
I'll get with Becky on that.
Yeah. And I do want to make one comment about the live edge files are great, but they do top up the water caps that are in the roads. So in the springtime, the water department is replacing those caps a lot of the time.
Just on the portage or
Oh,
all?
on all the
All
roads.
over.
All the roads, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
so those were my only
Good feedback for Sal.
things. Yeah, and it can't be helped because they corner of the road, and then the cap just pops off and you don't know where to go. I'm always afraid a kitten or something's gonna fall in those holes, so I report them to Derek whenever I see them. But that's it for me, and like I said, we will get our warrant satisfied, but I'm afraid it won't be till the end of this
All
month.
right, we'll double check and see what's actually available.
Yeah. So we just might have to, push things out a little farther, with what we have for balance.
Okay.
Okay.
Matt, did you have anything?
Nope, I can update the board on the status of our consent decree, which is litigation and executive as well.
Okay. All right, so at this time, I'll make a resolution to enter an executive session to discuss the matter that